There's a common phrase that we use in the business world, which, to be honest, really bothers me. It's a phrase that sums up a certain approach to our professional lives that we've been taught to accept as if everyone should abide by this principle. It's a rule of sorts, one that you're supposed to follow, and which I've heard repeated by small business owners and also major business moguls alike. And the reason it gets to me is because this one simple phrase represents a whole bunch of old ideas that are holding us back from enjoying some of the most fundamental parts of our existence, holding us back from the true success and joy we seek, which so many of us are missing and longing for in our daily lives. And this basic principle, this singular phrase that we've been told to accept is this: it's just business. For as long as I can remember, I've heard people use this phrase as if the work we do is something separate from everything else in our lives, as if the fundamental principles we follow in life don't apply to what we do at the office or in the workplace. And I think what really doesn't sit right with me about it is when we say it's just business, we're using it as a sort of excuse for bad behavior, right? I'm sorry, I have to cut you out of this deal that's going to be widely profitable. It's not personal, it's just business. We're laying you off today in order to boost our stock price, even though we're profitable. I'm sorry you won't be able to make your mortgage payment, but it's not personal, it's just business. When you put this phrase into any sort of human context, we immediately take our humanity out of the workplace. How does that make any sense? On average, people work 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week. Assuming we sleep 8 hours, we spend half of our waking hours at work. For entrepreneurs, the time we put into our business is much more than that. In some cases, maybe 2/3 of our waking hours. Not to mention, business is what drives our economies, builds our wealth, builds our nations. The work we do and the businesses that we run provide us with the food we eat, the cars we drive, the earnings we need to survive and raise our families. How can all of that possibly be considered separate and apart from who we are, our morals, our ethics? As if this massive amount of time and energy we spend at work can somehow be separated from our fundamental principles as humans. The answer is, it cannot. It's not just business. It has never been just business, because every business is made up of humans, and every decision we make in our businesses has a real and often lasting impact on real people. Not only the people who work in our companies, but on their families, in our communities, on our planet. On some level, every one of us who has gathered here today already knows this. We're gathered here together because some part of us wants to do better. We can admit that we don't have all the answers. We're joined here in a humble posture of learning, seeking guidance, not just how to do business for the betterment of ourselves, but for the betterment of humanity. We're here trying to find better ways to strengthen our companies, not only to serve Wall Street and the bottom line, but because we are interested to actually serve others. Now, this isn't to say that we don't benefit from capitalism as it currently stands. Of course we do. In most cases, the promise of the capital system is what drives us, but we also know that capitalism, as we've practiced, especially since the 1980s, isn't fulfilling all of the promises we'd like to keep to our children, to our grandchildren, even to ourselves. For various reasons, instead of lifting all boats with the tide, capitalism as we know it seems to be dividing us as people to the haves and the have-nots, into extraordinary wealth for a relatively small few and a paycheck-to-paycheck existence, or worse, for everyone else, often while leaving a trail of harm for future generations to worry about. For a long time, this forward-moving model of capitalism has shaped much of the world, sometimes even contributing positively. But as we evolve, it's clear that the old ways of doing business are becoming increasingly unsustainable. Some of us are beginning to realize it's time to question what do we mean when we say it's just business, and rethink our assumptions about what building a successful company truly means. Is success really defined by accumulation of wealth and one's capacity to maximize his or her ability to consume more? Does it still make sense to measure the value of a business solely by growth and profits? Or should we also consider its social impact, its contribution to the well-being of society, and perhaps even deeper, less tangible measures? It's time we explore these ideas as we move towards a more meaningful, lasting vision of success that goes beyond the bottom line. Perhaps it's time that we ask ourselves more about why we do the work we do and who we do it for. And so we come together today to put our heads and hearts together to try something different, to put our resources, our talents, our investments, our innovations, our entrepreneurship to use for a higher purpose in service to humanity while never letting go of the fact that we want to build great businesses. I think of it as seeking profit, but without a loss. And here's the good news. When we do this, something pretty amazing happens. When we choose to do our work in a spirit of service, our work itself becomes a spiritual experience. As I wrote in my book, Crossing the Desert, which I'm thankful some of you in this room have read it, and those who have not, you all got a free copy, hint, hint. In the Baha'i faith, there is truly a high regard for work. Abdul Baha wrote, "Work done in the spirit of service is the highest form of worship." I love this quote. It's not only about putting worship into action, but about how we approach all work. Any job can be done as a form of worship as long as we do it with the spirit of service to others. To me, this means that regardless of how we feel about a job or even an employer, we have a higher responsibility to do it well, a responsibility that's spiritual in nature. This idea of seeking our work as an act of spirituality, faith, or worship isn't something that's exclusive to Baha'is. In Judaism, the Hebrew word avodah holds deep significance, encompassing work, worship, and service all at once. This concept is reflected throughout Jewish teachings, highlighting the interconnectedness of our daily work with our higher purpose and service. In the Bible, Jesus teaches his believers to make all of our acts good works, meaning good for others, not just for self. In the book of Matthew, Jesus says, "Let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven." How about the Buddhists? The Buddhists say we should see our daily working life as an opportunity for developing our spiritual practice. It goes on and on throughout nearly every faith. So, doesn't it follow that it might be important for us to continue to cultivate our values in all sorts of ways through our work? When work from the beginning has been a spiritual endeavor, but we're not supposed to talk about faith in a business setting, are we? Why not? Because business is business and faith is personal. As if we are all supposed to drop our faith, our beliefs, our ethics, our morals, our loves and passions at the doorstep every time we step into the office or our living rooms for those who work remotely. It's absurd. We're all humans. We have personal beliefs and passions. And the reason we work at all is so we can further enjoy and build our personal lives with security and freedom for our families. Maybe that's what capitalism should be elevated to. Why would we leave the best parts of our hearts and souls at home when we go to work, when we build our companies, when we are making deals or dealing with our fellow humans in the workplace? Thomas Watson Sr., one of the great CEOs of the 20th century, led IBM from 1914 until his death in 1956. His leadership helped shape IBM into a global technology leader, and his legacy continued to influence the company for decades. Watson created a corporate model that valued his employees and encouraged creativity through his famous Think motto. He also believed in fostering international cooperation through business, advocating for world peace through world trade. Under Watson's leadership, IBM played a major role in historic projects. The company provided the technology for the development of the U.S. Social Security system, contributed to NASA's Apollo missions, including the first human flight to the moon, and laid a foundation for many technological advancements that will shape the future. Watson's vision for IBM extended beyond profits, demonstrating how business can have a lasting impact on both society and innovation. As Watson famously said, to be successful, you have to have your heart in your business and your business in your heart. I like that. Acting from the heart truly matters. When we act without heart, separating our humanity from our work and thinking it's just business, we make excuses. We deceive for profit, hide the truth for short-term gains, or act unethically to boost share prices. Who are we really hurting? Ourselves, our mental health, our youth, and the future we're shaping. Thankfully, we know there is another way. And when we work in service to something greater than ourselves, when we bring our whole hearts and our true spiritual selves to work, I can tell you, not only from the research I've done, but from first-hand experience, it changes everything. No longer do we make excuses like, well, it may be unethical, but it's not illegal. So let's keep doing it until the government tells us to stop. You've heard that one, right? I mean, at times it seems like that's a mantra in Silicon Valley. But when you're approaching business as a spiritual endeavor, you would never allow yourself to think that way, let alone act that way. Because you know that anything you do to harm others is in opposition to your beliefs. And that doesn't have to mean it's a religious belief. It simply means you're following a very human instinct to do right by your neighbors and to do right by you. Acting ethically, with integrity, being truthful in our intentions and communications, it all becomes so simple when we bring our spiritual selves to work. And when we remember that everyone we interact with, even our competitors, our enemies as it were, is a spiritual being. It is my belief that the joy that comes from going about work as an act of service, as a form of worship to something beyond the mighty dollar, is a missing link that will better connect us all. The bond that will fill the gaps between the many hours we spend at work and the callings of our higher purpose. And none of it has to take away from what we do or why we do it. It only adds to what we do. It lifts us to higher ground. It gives us more without taking anything away. Creating jobs, positively impacting our existing communities, creating communities through our companies, maximizing profits not only for the sake of individual monetary gain, but in order to gain the ability to perform even more acts of service in the world. That, my friends, is a beautiful feeling to achieve. And all it takes is approaching our businesses with a simple idea that we want to do what we can to our work to leave the world a better place. Is that some idealist dreamer's vision of the future? No, it's happening right now, and you're going to see many examples of it happening throughout this summit. The difference between how things were and how things can be isn't some unachievable dream, it's simply a change in mindset. As we embark on this journey at the One Planet Summit, I encourage each of you to see our work as more than just business. The world is in need of a spiritual transformation, and our businesses provide an invaluable opportunity for us to put these spiritual values to work and do our part in building a better future. When we approach our work with heart, ethics, and the spirit of service, we forge a new path that not only enriches our companies and communities, but also our personal lives. My hope is that by the end of this summit, we'll all leave here feeling elevated, ready to show the world that entrepreneurship and our professional engagements can be a spiritual experience, one that creates a profound impact on those around us. Together, we can redefine success by elevating business to serve humanity, building a better future for generations to come. Let this be the start of that transformation. Thank you, and welcome to the One Planet Summit.
Think of sharing what you know.